right, good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us for the first Edmentum West Virtual Equity and Distance Learning Conference. My name is Michelle Geddes, and I am the Regional Vice President here at Edmentum for the western part of the United States. I'm so excited to have you here today. We know that as educator, your role is fulfilling and challenging on a daily basis, but the last few months have been unprecedented change, success, and opportunities for every one of you. I hope today you walk away with new tools and ideas to help you support summer school programs and planning for 2021 and beyond. There will be 3 breakout sessions. The link that you were sent earlier today and last evening has the links to each breakout. So when the session time arrives, you'll just click that link and you'll be in the meeting. I'll also add that link again at the end of the keynote for reference. We have 10-minute breaks between our sessions today to give you a chance to stretch your legs. And following the final keynote, we'll have time for some prizes and a little fun before wrapping up the day, so please stick around. Finally, post-event, we will send you an email with the recording to today's sessions, the presentations, as well as a CEU certificate you can use for approval within your district. With that, I'm very excited to introduce our keynote speaker, Kim Loomis. Kim recently retired as the Director of Digital Learning in Nevada's Clark County School District, the 5th largest district in the nation. Kim has over 20 years in growing K-12 digital learning from teaching, designing digital content, professional development, and virtual school administration, all the way to managing systems and processes for growing classrooms into the future. She also authored the book, Think Outside the Box. Kim's mission is to help others create actively engaging learning environments so students are empowered to take ownership of their own learning. And with that, I'm excited to introduce Kim. Kim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me, Michelle. And this has been really, really fun. I hope you all get something out of it. Today, we're going to talk about planning with digital in mind. I'm assuming if you're here with Edmentum, you've got digital tools and content that you're working on. And so let's go ahead and get started. So as Michelle alluded to, I'm Kim Loomis. I've worked in the field of digital learning since 1999. I spent 10 years in the classroom as a high school mathematics teacher, but later I held positions in school leadership and central office. And as Michelle alluded to, I did spend the last 10 years as the director for online and blended learning in Nevada's Clark County School District. I do have a book, as she also noted there. It's called Think Outside the Box, because that's exactly what I ask teachers and administrators to do. To think outside the box, look for different ways of using digital content and really partnering with it. Today, like I head up a consulting company. It's called i3 Digital PD. There's a link there on the page where I help others, as Michelle alluded to grow national high quality digital learning programs. So today, though, we're going to really kind of kick it off with looking at, your purpose. What is a blended learned personalized learning? And we're going to wrap up with the CIA of blended. And that's kind of, if you read the preview to this course or the preview to this keynote, it's that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And if you didn't, you'll get it by the end. So let's go ahead and look at some of the, get started. So I know that you guys came into education and you chose this career path, and some of you kind of fell into it. Some of you, actually planned for it. At some point in your life, though, you decided to be a teacher. For me, that was in 2nd grade. That was back in the 1970s, and Muhammad Ali was floating like a butterfly with a sting of a bee. And guess what? A gallon of milk was $1.25, dozen eggs, 50 cents, a postage stamp, just a dime. But what did I know about those types of things? I was only 8 years old, 2nd grade, right? So I thought about teaching for a very long time. I used to play school with all my friends in the summer. We'd go in and we'd raid the trash bins when the teachers were cleaning out their classroom, because I thought there's no reason to let all those worksheets go to waste. But I actually voiced when I wanted to be a teacher was in 2nd grade. My parents were going through a divorce. I was angry and troublesome in school, which led me into the principal's office, who called my mother asking her if it was okay to spank me for misconduct. Of course, she's going to agree, right? My dad's not home. He's out, right? I knew, though, that was only the beginning of my troubles. When I got home, the reprimand was really going to come. My mother was so mad at me. She asked a friend to come in and deal with me. The 3 of us sat at this kitchen table. Becky, my mom's friend, calmly started talking to me. My mom was just steaming. You could just see the steam going off. And at some point, Becky asked me, what did I want to be when I grow up? And I said, a teacher, just like that, nonchalant. a teacher. My mother stood up, she slammed her hands on the table and yelled, "Teachers don't act like that." And from that day forward, I never wavered from my conviction of being a teacher. Now for you, your story may be a little bit different. So I want you to think back about what it is, what's your purpose, why did you become an educator, and how'd you get here, right? Maybe you have a story or an event like the one that I just told that drove you to become a teacher. Well, I want you to think about that. Why did you become a teacher? Was there a time in your life that you just knew you were going to be a teacher, like I did in second grade? And as I became a middle school, I thought, oh, I want to be a middle school teacher. When I got to high school, I want to be a high school teacher. I mean, it wasn't until I was sitting in my calculus class in 12th grade and thinking, oh, math's easy. Why don't I go ahead and study this and become a math teacher, right? Or my math teacher, my calculus teacher, he was a special teacher and he affected me so much that I wanted to grow up and be just like him. What was it for you? What brought you to the classroom? Were you looking for a job? Were you looking for a career path? Or was it a calling deep inside you? So when we think about why we became teachers, Simon Sinek would tell us, hey, you've got to look for your why, right? You got to look for your purpose. We all know what we did when we came, right? We became educators. We know how we did it. We went through all those college courses to get here, but why? Really, why? So using Simon Sinek's golden circle, what we need to do is look at that center, right? That part of our being, of our career choice. Sinek even gave us a template, like and then figure out what our actionable is, and figure out how we want to affect each other. So I want you to think about, what is your why? What is your golden circle? Think about the actions you take and how they affect others. Let me share my why statement with you. Michelle kind of alluded to it at the beginning. To me, this is my why statement. If I'm on an elevator and somebody asks me, Kim, what is it that you do? I don't even tell them what I do. I tell them why I do it, right? I say I help educators create actively engaging learning environments so that students are empowered to take the ownership of their own learning, right? That's my why. That's my purpose in life. I want you to find that purpose. I want you to think through what it would be. Now, y'all know how I got where I'm at, right? You know what I do. How I do it is I do it through personalized blended learning. And what I do is I'm a consultant, but I don't tell people that on the elevator. This is the statement I give them, right? I help educators create actively engaging learning environments so that students are empowered to take ownership of their own learning. Think about your why. Think about not only what brought you here, but what brought you to the profession. So as we move forward today, I want us to think about the impact that we want to make, where we want to go. Educators have so much influence on young minds, right? I even heard somebody describe what we do as conducting brain surgery. We are impacting the lives of our students each and every day. Of course, academically, but in so many other ways as well. As a leader in the classroom, you are making an impact, sometimes that's unforeseen and sometimes in unintentional ways. So if we think about a typical classroom, right? We just go back and we think about these typical classrooms. So what's going on inside that typical classroom? Here you are, you're the teacher, you're working really hard, right? You're trying to get everything done. It's direct instructions, getting things going, getting things moving. And you, at the end of the day, you are so tired, so frustrated because you can't meet every individual student's needs. And you're not doing enough and you're not hitting enough of the standards. So at the end of the day, you are tired and frustrated. And all we're really getting to is that depth of knowledge, that low level basic skills and understanding, right? So we end up at the end of our day tired and frustrated. Now our students, they are just stuck in skill development and practice. And they too are frustrated. They're like bored and frustrated. And it's like, oh God, can we get beyond this? Can we do something different? So, but don't forget, we also have students that sometimes just don't come to class, right? They're absent. They missed class. So they have frustration as well. They have these gaps that we can't fill because we have to keep moving forward and they can't get those gaps filled. So in the end, we're all frustrated. Right? We are all frustrated. And I'll tell you, the hard part about being all frustrated is you've probably heard this before. You've heard the saying that says, kids don't care about what you teach them. They care about how you make them feel, right? And if we're feeling frustrated, if students are feeling frustrated, that classroom is not the classroom that we want to have. We need to change a little bit so that we can have a different type of classroom. It's a change, it's a slight change into the pedagogy. It's changing into what we would call an actively engaging classroom, right? So to get there though, we have to buy time. Now, it's not like we go out and we have the dollars to go out and buy time. We start with buying time by partnering with digital content. Thank you, Michelle. Partnering with digital content. And what that can do is that can deliver our DOK level 1 and 2, right? If we can release a little bit of the control to our digital partner, let them deliver DOK level 1 and 2, then we can create a personalized learning environment for every student. Now, what does that do for us? Well, it changes our role. So as a teacher, our role now changes. Yeah, sure, we're still going to have to go back and do some intervention down at DOK level 1 and 2, but we get to actively create learning stations and playlists and really push those kids up to higher levels. We get to guide that instruction into some really strategic thinking, some real world applications so that we get to move forward. And what about our students? Well, heck, our students are very lucky because guess what? In this new world where they've got personalized learning going on in the digital content and they've got a teacher that's guiding instruction with cool things like playlists and, setting up, what we call active engagement, quiz check, or maybe it's a World Cafe, some really fun stuff, then the students can take ownership of that skills and practice, right? And so they're actively engaged. And our students that are absent, oh my goodness, they're lucky because here what happens is they've got the tech that's going to help pick them up. They've got their peers that are going to help pull them up, and they've got the teacher that can intervene and stop and do one-on-one tutoring and push them up. So guess what? They get caught up, right? This is the classroom you want to have. Why? Because everything is energized. Everybody's ready to go. They want to come back tomorrow. You want to come back tomorrow? The kids that are absent are like, I don't want to miss that. The kids that are there are like, dude, we're having a great time, right? So this is the type of environment that we want to create. So if we go into our next slide, you'll see that what we need to do is we need to create a balanced approach. Now, when I think about balanced approach, you have to do a little bit of a pedagogy shift, okay? I'm talking just a slight change, and I know change is difficult, but you might remember there was a book, oh gosh, the early 90s, or excuse me, not 90s, it was probably 2008, 2007 from Spencer Johnson. It was called Who Moved My Cheese, right? Right, and because what happens when we do that slight change, the pandemic itself moved our cheese. We all had to change our own pedagogy and really quick. The world is constantly changing, and so should we. We should never stop learning. Go back to that reason why you became a teacher. Possibly it was because you loved learning, right? You had to embrace that mantra of lifelong learning, and you wanted to instill that into your students. And that's the same passion, the same desire that we always want to use and we want to get our students to. And that's what we can do with personalized blended learning. So let's talk a little bit about blended learning. So here's my definition of blended learning. I will tell you, I was a former math teacher, 10 years in the high school classroom, right? So I like to make things really simple. Yeah, sure, there's a definition out there with multiple parts from the Clay Christensen, Institute, but I'm gonna make it really simple. For blended personalized learning, we are talking about taking the wisdom of the teachers, right? You guys are so stinking smart. They even made you get a master's degree, right, in pedagogy and standards, and you are so smart, right? But we're gonna match that with the intelligence of technology. Now, I'm not saying that technology is super smart, but it is definitely not taking papers home on the weekend. You might be, but it's not. Because you know what? Those ones and zeros that are inside that technology, it makes them grade papers really super fast, right? But it's not really smart because it only can do that DOK level 1 and 2, that low level stuff. But if I can take that wisdom of the teacher and I can match it with the intelligence of the technology, each and every student can get a personalized learning space. And that's the power of blended personalized learning. But before we go much further, I really want to talk about the core business of schools, right? The core business of schools is relationships and learning. And if you saw that icon a moment ago, I used a teacher, I used a computer, I used a student. And those three icons are important, right? Because we want to balance that. And if you remember that image of the teacher, if you go back to that purpose slide a moment ago, there were tons of hearts. You have the heart that we cannot take away from the classroom. I would never take away the heart of the teacher from the classroom. It is the biggest and the most important part. But we also have to focus in on that learning, right? We want to make sure that they are hitting the standards, and we can't do it all ourselves. And that's why it becomes important that we partner with digital content, right? It's really important, guys. I'm telling you, keep the relationships and the learning. Keep this as your focus of your building, right? So let's talk about the CIA of learning. Now, I got to tell you, I've got an aunt, and I saw somebody in chat. They're from Tulare, California. I have an aunt in Tulare, California. 104, guys, 104 years old, 104 years, right? So she started teaching. She was an elementary school teacher right there in Visalia, just outside of Tulare, California. And she started teaching in the 1930s. She taught in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, and didn't quit until the 70s. That is 5 decades that she was in the classroom, right? 5 decades that she helped her students. And you know what? They did the same thing you see here in this slide deck. They did curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And her classroom could have looked exactly like that picture there, but the main focus would have been curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And I'm not talking, when I say CIA, because you're going to hear me say it a lot, I'm not talking about people in black suits and dark glasses. I'm talking about curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Now I tell you, my 104-year-old aunt, unlike me, she's making more in retirement than she ever did in the classroom. That's what you get when you're over a century-year-old. So let's talk about the CIA of blended. It looks a little bit different than the regular CIA. In a traditional classroom, remember that boring, frustrating classroom? It looks a little bit different in the blended classroom. In the blended classroom, we have these qualifiers, right? What we really want to do with curriculum is we want to maximize the use of digital curriculum, right? So that way the heart of the teacher can guide the instruction, and so that students can work on authentic assessment. There is going to be assessment, don't get me wrong, inside the digital curriculum. You're going to find regular tests, regular quiz, you're going to have formative and summative, right? But authentic assessment, that's where we really want to push it. Now notice again the 3 icons, the computer, the teacher, the student. Those are going to become really important in our 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 as we look to balance this. Now as a math teacher, I like to see the triple Venn diagram. I like to say it, and so I put the CIA in this triple Venn diagram. So you have digital curriculum, our computer, guided instruction, our teacher, and authentic assessment, our student, right? And our goal is to do a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 balance and shoot for that sweet spot for CIA right in the middle. So as we move forward, I want you to think through, how can I balance digital curriculum, guided instruction, and authentic assessment to get a 1/3, 1/3 balance for that sweet spot in the middle. Now, I'm going to help you. Don't worry. Let's start with digital curriculum. So digital curriculum starts with the computer, right? Inside that curriculum, what you're going to find is you're going to find, engaging software. They have drags and drops. They have fun things that kids can do. It's aligned to standard that gives every kid a personalized learning space. And the cool thing for us as educators, we get personalized individual data points too. It is so awesome. Every kid I get data on. But remember, even though I called it the intelligence of technology, it's really not that intelligent. It can only deliver depth of knowledge 1 and 2, that just basic understanding and recall, concept, skills, low level Bloom's taxonomy, right? That small stuff. But guess what? If it's doing it, then I don't have to do it as much, because you're still going to have to do it. You're going to have some intervention. Don't worry about it. What I like to talk about when I talk about digital curriculum is I talk about partnerships. Let me give you an analogy. You have partners in your home. Some of them we call spouses, roommates, even kids. Now, sometimes those partners in your life may not put the dishes in the dishwasher the way you want them to, right? Come on, I know you're out there saying, yep, they don't, right? And there's a piece of you that wants to go in and fix it. But guys, I tell you, that's kind of like your digital curriculum. It's not going to probably deliver things the exact same way that you would. But if you don't worry about it, just like you didn't worry about the fork that was in the wrong place or the plate that was sitting too close to the bowl, right? It still got clean. Most of the stuff will get clean. Here, if you partner with digital curriculum, most of your students will learn DOK level 1 and 2. Now, sometimes when you run the wash cycle, there are a few items that still didn't get all that clean. That's okay. It's called intervention, right? We can go in and we can pull those 1 or 2 kids aside and do some intervention. Now, the key here with digital curriculum, and this is the part I love the best, is that students get to pick up where they left off, right? If you remember back to our students that were absent, right, in this classroom, in this engaging classroom, they get to pick up with their friends, push up by their peers, and pick up exactly where they left off in their digital curriculum. So we have smaller learning gaps, right? But before we go much further, I want to talk about the difference between digital content and digital tools, because that sometimes is where people get a little confused when I talk about digital curriculum, because curriculum is like content. It comes full, right? It's got full of math, full of science, full of English. These are content. It's curriculum that are either in a lesson object or a small piece of something that you can use. Sometimes it's full courseware. If I think of Edmentum, I mean, we've got some great digital curriculum out there, right? Now, if we think about digital tools, tools come empty. Now, you've opened up a Google Doc or a Microsoft slide deck. They're empty when you open them. That's a tool, right? Kahoots, Edpuzzle, Flipgrid, Padlet, TestTeach, all of those come empty. Now, I get when we're talking about the app world, some of them have now created repositories that teachers have made stuff and being able to share it. But in general, when you open up a Kahoot, it's empty for you, ready to craft something in, right? So when you think about digital curriculum, think of, is it full? Does it have something in it? Crash course videos from YouTube, it's full, it's got stuff in it, right? Khan Academy, it's got stuff in it. Those are the types of things that you really want to partner with. Now, I will tell you though, you want to limit your partners because you want to take that cognitive load down, right? I always tell people no more than 1, maybe 3 digital partners. So you might have your software from your vendor, and then you might want to throw in some crash course videos, or you might even want to throw in some free other, like BrainPop or some other stuff that you have there that you want to use with that partner. 3 is pretty big, but 1 to 2 is pretty good. Now, when it gets to tools, again, we want to take that cognitive load down, right? So I'd say 3 to 5. I like to have a tool that's going to help me present. I like a tool that's going to help me with my videos. I like a tool that's going to help me with assessment. So I might pick something like Kahoots. I love Kahoots, right? Flipgrid's fun. Kids love Flipgrid. I might use Remind to keep kids going. I got a Google Classroom going on. Oh, that's already 4 tools. Throw in my 2 vendor products and my crash course. I'm at 6. That's a heavy cognitive load, not just for you, but also for your students and their parents to keep track of. So again, think of digital partners, 1 to 3, digital tools, 3 to 5. All right, so let's talk about partners, because oftentimes people don't understand and they think that all tools are built, the same. They're not. It's like there's Cadillacs and there's Hugos and there's all kinds of, when you think of transportation, there's lots of ways to get places, right? So our partner has lots of different things that come in place, like a supplement, right? If you have a supplement like Study Island, great for skills and practice, but when I have to partner with it, I gotta tell you what, go ahead and hit it, Michelle. It's going to be, I have to do everything. I'm gonna have to help fill the gaps. I'm gonna have to make sure that they get grade level, because my partner, not that it's not great, it's still really good. It's great for station rotation. It's great for even homework. But I'm still going to have to do the intervention, and I'm still going to have to pull the kids up to grade level, and I have to do grade level stuff, right? So let's look at the next one. The next one is active, or what we call adaptive, right? Adaptive intervention software. In Edmentum, that's our ExactPath. Love ExactPath, right? Give a test, it creates a path for the student. Heck, I can even put national survey tests inside there, and it'll create the path with that. So if I've got that intervention partner, and I love that intervention partner, guess what? My load as a teacher changes. Now all I have to focus on, because I know it's going to help fill gaps, I can focus in on 4th grade level content standards or 6th grade level content standards. I focus in on grade level because my partner, my digital tool, right, my digital curriculum partner is able to carry the intervention. Now, there are such things like courseware, full-blown courses, right? Scope, sequence, goal, like oftentimes we see these at the secondary level. Now, if I partner with something like that, my role changes as well, because it's focused in on the grade level. Guess what? I'm going to have to scaffold and support and stretch the learning, because you and I know that's still only DOK level 1 and 2. And I'm sure your standards aren't sitting at DOK level 1 and 2. You're going to really need to know what's inside that partner so that you can stretch and bring your students up to the DOK level that they're supposed to be at, right? You're going to need to look in there and say, oh my goodness, if kids have to know polynomials, they better know how to deal with positive and negative numbers. I might have to scaffold this down. Or I might need to look at where the misconceptions are so that I can pull my kids up and help them forward. Does everybody doing pretty good on digital curriculum because we're going to move on to the next letter. Remember, CIA. So now we're moving into I. Now, I is for the teacher, right? The 1/3 that the teacher carries. That is guided instruction, right? That's where you come in. You are so wise. Your digital partner is going to give you so much data. And what you're going to do is you're going to use that data to help inform your instruction, right? Now, your instruction sometimes will be small groups, sometimes it'll be whole groups, sometimes it'll even be one-on-one tutoring. But your goal, the wisdom of our teachers, that heart inside you is to worry about the relationships, right? Create that relationship so that students want to learn. Create that relationship so that you know that the kids will want to come to class, right? You also know about the power and essential standards that are important for your grade level. You can't let a kid exit 3rd grade without knowing their facts in the multiplication tables. You know these things, so you're going to have to focus in on them. You're going to have to create environments, learning environments that allow those kids to push them through there. And that's what the important part about guided instruction is. It's really, you get more time because you've given the DOK level 1 and 2 over to your digital partner so that you can now focus in on the power standards, scaffolding, stretching, supporting, small group, whole group, one-on-one, and the data is going to help you get there. Okay, C, I, and our last one is A. Let's get to A. So A is not just your regular assessment, because you're going to have regular assessment. You're going to have tests, you're going to have quizzes. You're even going to probably have some formative stuff that you're going to just observe in your guided instruction. But when we talk about authentic assessment, I'm really talking about releasing the learning to our students. Notice the icon there. Our students 1/3 of the time using critical thinking, communication, collaboration, creativity. Now this should span DOK 1 because it could include vocabulary. You could do a quiz trade on vocabulary cards, right? And it could go all the way to DOK level 4 where you might have kids doing some project learning or some performance tasks, right? So think about that spanning of when I can release the students and have them be actively engaged in the learning. So this authentic assessment really goes all the way down to DOK level 1 where you plan like World Cafe, or you might plan numbered heads. You're doing something that's really fun and engaging where the kids are owning the learning as well as stretching that learning, right? So if we go to the next one, go back to our triple Venn diagram. This is what it looks like, guys. Digital curriculum, guided instruction, authentic assessment. If we hit the first one, you know that the DOK 1 and 2 is all we're going to get out of our technology. But guys, that's enough. That's okay, because that partnership makes a big important. And like your spouses at home, those partners you have at home, you want digits, right? You want a paycheck. They can't sit on the couch and put their feet on the coffee table day in and day out. You want their digits. And that's what we want when we partner with a digital partner. I want their digits. I want to use that digit and inform my guided instruction so that I can then stretch the learning to DOK level 1 and 4 and release the ownership of the learning to my students so that then they can show us that they've mastered the full curriculum. You can see how it comes full circle here, right? It's a partnership, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. We're shooting for that middle part. Go ahead and click to the next one. So when we think of it, 1/3 curriculum is going to be digital, 1/3 with a teacher, 1/3 with a student. So as you're planning 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, I want you to keep those icons in your mind. Digital content, guided instruction, authentic assessment. So what does that look like, right? How does 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 look like? Well, I will tell you, what I like to do is I take a piece of paper, I fold it in thirds. I put C in one column, I in another, and A in the third column. Now, I will tell you, for this to work, most of the time I was carrying the instruction. I've got to figure out when I can release, right, out to the digital curriculum and when I can release out to my students. So I got to think about all the things that I was doing a moment ago and release it, right? What I don't want to do is have this digital partner out here doing a bunch of work and I'm still doing the same amount of work before, right? I want to release that DOK level 1 and 2 over to my digital partners, and how can I bring it to DOK levels 3s and 4s over to my students? So this is what it looks like as we go forward. So you start, number 1, go ahead and click for me, please. The first thing that we want to do is we want to start with our 3 columns. I say start in the digital curriculum. Look at your digital curriculum, right? When you started with your spouses and stuff, you dated them. You got to know them, and that's what you need to do here. You need to know your digital curriculum. What's inside it? What are the topics? What are the knowledge? What are the ideas? Is there vocabulary in there? What does it cover, right? If I know it can cover those things, Like my spouse can mow the yard. I don't have to mow the yard. My spouse cleans the pool. I don't have to clean the pool, right? I don't have to worry about those things. So if I can release that over there, then I can focus on different things. Now, as guided instruction though, I know what the standards are. So it's going to be really important to take that wisdom, take your wisdom of the standards and figure out, is that deep enough? And I can tell you most of the time it's not. You're going to have to take it deeper. You're going to have to take those kids to strategic and extended thinking, right? So you want to think about, how do I partner with that digital content? Now, I'm not thinking small, I'm thinking big. When you want to write a book, you think of the book, you do an overarching. This is the same thing here. This is unit planning. I'm not talking minute lesson planning. I'm thinking of a unit that I want to cover, and this is how I want to do it. And I want to map this out before I start building the lessons. I know as teachers, oftentimes we go straight to the lessons, but how can you go to a lesson if you don't know what the whole unit looks like, right? So 1/3 is going to go to digital curriculum, 1/3 is going to go to our guided instruction, and hit me again, Michelle, 1/3 we want to release to our students, right? This is where I'm going to add in some peer-to-peer. I'm going to add in some deep thinking knowledge stuff and take those kids from DOK level 1 all the way through DOK level 4. So you can see how this balances 1/3 technology, 1/3 teacher, 1/3 student. And once you've got this map out, once you've figured out what you want to do in this unit, then you can start building lessons. Then you can start saying, hey, I can do a station rotation to cover this, or hey, I want to do a playlist to cover this. Oh, dang, I want to bring in numbered heads here. Or how about we do 4 corners here? Let's get the students going and moving, right? Those are the types of things that you want to do. So today, as you go through all of your sessions, I want you to really think about CIA, digital curriculum, guided instruction, authentic assessment, and think about how you can take it to that 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 balance. Hey guys, it has been a pleasure. Michelle, thank you for doing all my clicking there. Have a great day. Have a great conference. Thanks for having me.
Kim, we did have one question come in. I know we only have a couple of minutes. It's kind of a loaded question, so I'm going to throw it at you.
All right.
When students are in 8 different classes in a high school, do you recommend selection of digital tools to be 3 to 5 school-wide or per teacher? I know that's kind of loaded.
So yeah, no, that's a great question, because I have a daughter who's in a 4x4 block in high school, and when I say this, I say per your classroom, right? So if you're an elementary teacher, I would say per subject area. You might have a software product that you might be using in math, but a different one in social studies. So at the secondary level, I'm talking about per classroom. So if I'm a math teacher, I'm going to use, stuff in math, and that English teacher over there is going to probably use something that's done in English. But that's a great question. So that's per your classroom, per subject area. So keep that in mind. I know as we move through, especially with our elementary, it gets a little hinky because they have so many subject areas. But guess what? They have so many resources too.